She bottles her flatulence to keep her carbon footprint down. She says climate change is killing the coral reef as she lathers on sunscreen and snorkels in the reef. She once chained herself to a tree for the selfie. She said the world would end in 10 years, 30 years ago. She flies to climate conferences, first class. She uses crystals instead of deodorant. She once lectured a starving African boy mining for cobalt, how he is stealing her childhood. She's plant-based, unless someone orders wings. Her armpit hair has dreadlocks. She doesn't have any actual kids, but has adopted 7 Haitian families to come live in your town. Her catchphrase is, "How dare you?" She refuses to drink bottled water unless it's from Coachella. Instead of driving, she runs in Nikes made by Uyghurs in a Chinese concentration camp. She owns 47 tote bags and still forgets to bring them. She gives out bamboo toothbrushes on Halloween. She is the most environmentalist woman in the world.
I don't always drink, but when I do, it's from a coconut I flew in from Bali. Stay reusable, my friends.
Very well done. I think those are very underappreciated. Very, very well done. It really, it sits right with me. Sits right with me. Those takeoffs of the most interesting man in the world. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I am your host, Joe Neerman, a.k.a. Good Lawgic, but you probably knew that already. I don't know if you wouldn't have been here in the first minute or so, would you? Unlikely. So I put up a goal. In case you're wondering. I put up a goal. Why don't I hear? I don't hear myself. I hope you all hear me. This doesn't feel like a boomer moment. It just feels like I'm just not hearing myself. All right. Well, I put up a goal. Our usual goal, which is 15 yellows or higher, $10 super chats or higher, and within 2 hours. And if we do that, I'm going to add in 2 topics. One being highlights from Trump's presser earlier today, and the other being the AOC scandal, which has been brewing. So I will cover those topics. I will tell you that. That's if we hit our goal. I will cover those topics. I will tell you I haven't reviewed that yet. So I'm going to be doing that like live with you if we get there. But if you're so inclined to watch me do some research about that and give you my thoughts on those 2 things as I'm viewing them for the first time, push us to a goal. Push us to the goal. Just got to push us across the finish line. I should put a thing up like about the goal, shouldn't I? There should be like a banner. Do I have a banner goal? Do I have when I'm full screen? No, that's not right. Nope. I should have a banner, right? All right. Check our goal. You will want to tell your friends about it. Obviously, why wouldn't you? Should be calling your friends on the phone saying, "Oh my God, Joe's got a goal," or text them. You crazy kids. Yes, that is our goal. Okay, so there you go. There's a whole bunch of stories here which relates to this video. I even made reference. I even made reference to this in my notifications. My notifications that I put up on YouTube about tonight's show, and it's really this clip here just sits right with me.
The walls feel like they are closing in.
But as the walls close in around the president,
Donald Trump feels the walls closing in.
I think this is a guy who feels like the walls are closing in.
The walls are closing in on him.
because the walls are closing in. The walls are closing in on the president.
Now the walls appear to be closing in.
Really kind of the walls closing in on him.
The walls are closing in because the walls are indeed closing in.
I think at this point, the walls are spinning.
The legal walls are closing in. The walls are closing in on President Trump.
The walls, meanwhile, wall are closing in on the president of the United States.
The walls closing in on President Donald Trump.
It appears that the walls are closing in on this president.
Feels that the walls are closing in on him.
The walls closing in on him.
The walls are closing in.
And the walls are closing in on
That the walls are closing in on the president.
Are the walls closing in?
The walls are closing in on the presidency.
it says as the walls begin to close around him. The political walls closing in on him.
This is a president that feels the walls closing in. The walls are closing in on Donald Trump.
I think the walls are finally closing in.
The walls.
The walls.
The walls.
The walls.
Walls and the walls.
The walls. The
Walls
Are closing
in.
Closing in.
closing in.
Closing in on.
It's closing in.
The walls are closing in on President Donald Trump.
He's not looking forward to any of it. He's horrified. He's just talking big. The walls are closing in, as has been said before.
Sure. The walls are closing on in. Oh, still closing in. Excuse me. Still closing on in. Closing and closing, getting closer and closer on Trump. We heard that for the last 7-8 years, how the walls were closing in on Trump. They never seemed to they never got hit by the wall. All right, that's what I like to see. That's what we like to see. Let's get this party started. All right. So yeah, that was the reason I shared that video with you, is because for a bunch of Democrats, it seems as if the walls are actually starting to close in. We should talk about one of our favorite Democrats, one of our favorites. This one you might not have heard about even. There's not a lot of people talking about this. Not a lot of people talking about it. I mean, we've talked about the possibility of the walls closing in on this guy, but boom.
And tonight, an update on an Ingram Angle exclusive, a Trump administration source telling the Angle that a criminal investigation of Adam Schiff is underway, conducted by U.S. Attorney's Office in Maryland for possible charges involving mortgage fraud.
Criminal investigation of Adam Schiff.
Now, this follows the story we broke
for
last
mortgage
month when
fraud.
the Federal Housing Finance Agency sent a criminal referral to the DOJ alleging that Schiff, in multiple instances, falsified bank documents and property records to acquire more favorable loan terms. In a 2011 affidavit signed by the then California congressman, he certified that a property in Montgomery County, Maryland, is his primary residence. He also owns a condo in Burbank, California, which he's also claimed is his primary residence, and said so in 2023 during his campaign for Senate.
I think just about every member of Congress has a residence in their state and a residence back in D.C. since we're in session much of the week.
There's nothing wrong with that. You just can't call it your primary in your mortgage application, and you even got censured for this already.
And people make a family decision where they're going to have their kids. But our principal residence, our primary residence is in California. It always has been and always will be.
Because it legally has to be in order for you to stay a senator from that state.
Ruh-roh. Well, Senator Schiff has not responded to us about these allegations, but we were able to find a statement that his campaign spokesperson gave to CNN back in 2023. She said that the Burbank condo is his primary residence, but Adams, California, and Maryland addresses have been listed as primary residences for loan purposes because they're both occupied throughout the year and to distinguish them from a vacation property. Well, the law
That's not how mortgages work.
Let me just say that, but nice try. Look, it's anyone's guess what happens next, but we're going to stay on this story.
Nice. Yeah, I assume that his kids go to school in California. He does. It's exactly what Letitia James went after him for. Exactly this thing. That's what makes it so deliciously ironic. That's what makes it so delicious. You have to appreciate the irony. And Letitia James is facing her own scandal for precisely the same thing. Oh my God. We're still waiting, as far as I know. We're still waiting for the court because he was found guilty, but that was the Judge Engeron case. It was that was the civil case where he got hit with in excess of $450 million worth of fines for his records and for that loan that he repaid for defrauding Deutsche Bank. When I've reviewed all the legal flaws both with respect to their application both with respect to the conclusions of law and particularly the application of his own findings, which were just unsettling. I will remind you, I am licensed to practice law in the state of New York. Judge Engoron is someone who I'm not supposed to be chastising. It's considered like a potential ethical breach for a New York attorney, an officer, as an officer of the court, to be lambasting a New York judge. So I'm not lambasting Judge Engoron. I'm just saying that I find his decision mystifying. And it seemed as if the First Department, which is the appellate court that oversees Judge Engoron's decision, seemed similarly mystified as to what the hell was happening. Like, really, really mystified. I'd be very surprised if that judgment isn't overturned or greatly, significantly modified. But you didn't come here to hear about Schiff. No, 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 no. You came here to hear about Hillary Clinton, right? That's where you're, when you hear about the walls closing in, that's one of the folks you wanted to hear about. And apparently it seems as if we have a whole lineup of people who are about to be subpoenaed relating to Jeffrey Epstein and their connections to Jeffrey Epstein. Representative James Comer, who is of the House Oversight, who's been the head of the House Oversight Committee for a while now, is compelling the following individuals to appear for depositions through issued subpoenas. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, come on down. You've been officially subpoenaed. Former President Bill Clinton, come on down. You've been officially subpoenaed, as well as Merrick Garland. He's supposed to be coming on October 2nd. This is not really in any kind of chronological order. So I guess the first one here, the earliest one to me, looks like it's going to be former U.S. Attorney General William Barr. I don't know what they're going to ask him about Hillary. I'm a little confused by that. I'm not going to kid you. Also, we have this has to be on the 18th. Then we're going to have from former U.S. Attorney General Alberto Gonzalez. You would think that they would get in Alex Acosta. That's who I want to hear from, frankly, more than most of the people on this list. You're going to get Jeff Sessions in here on the 28th. On September 2nd, we're getting Robert Mueller in here. Okay. I don't know what he has to do with Jeffrey Epstein. Not sure. I'm not sure if this is... I don't even know what's happening here. What the heck does Robert Mueller have to do with Jeffrey Epstein? Am I missing something? Is this... I don't even understand this. But he's supposed to be coming in September 2nd. Then we have Loretta Lynch coming on September 9th. Not sure what she has to do with that either. I assume Loretta Lynch and Robert Mueller have to do with the whole Russia collusion scandal. That's what I would assume that they're coming in for. That's what I would assume, right? I mean, this is being billed as relationship to Jeffrey Epstein. That's how it's being held. But James Comer hasn't said that. Theoretically, it could be Russian collusion. Frankly, Hillary Clinton, I would think, would be Russian collusion. Bill Clinton, I think, would be Epstein. So I don't know what's happening here. It's a little bit hodgepodge. But I will tell you that many of these I'm going to strongly consider. I'm going to strongly consider live streaming. Certainly, Merrick Garland. I don't know if that's going to be an Epstein thing. Like, what did your Epstein files show? I don't know. I'm a little confused. So Comer doesn't claim to be talking about a particular issue. It's just issues du jour, I guess. But I can't understand what Robert Mueller has to do with anything related to Bill Clinton. The overlap there is very, very I guess I don't know. I don't know what you tell your best guess. Everyone's calling this an Epstein investigation, but I don't understand what the heck Robert Mueller has to do with Epstein. Because Robert Mueller obviously was the one who oversaw the Russian collusion hoax and came out with his stupid report where he claimed that Trump engaged in obstruction. And I could see where Merrick Garland would have to do something with Epstein, assuming that he had seen the files and things of that nature. And I don't see where he would have anything to do with really Russian collusion. Yeah, I guess Russian collusion potentially, to the extent he's helping cover up for it for the raid on Mar-a-Lago. Could be. Who knows? But this is happening. This is what's happening. A lot of people have thoughts about this and are assuming that these subpoenas. I should mention, Bill Clinton is the third president in history to be subpoenaed to appear before Congress. The first one was Harry S. Truman. The second one was Donald Trump. Neither of them ended up appearing before Congress. It's an interesting question. I would think that to the extent they're asking him about things that relate to post-presidency when he's a private individual, I don't see where he would have any form of executive privilege to get out of this subpoena. So I think there's a fairly decent chance that Bill Clinton will become the first president to ever be compelled to testify before Congress, because I don't believe that any of the questions they have for him relate whatsoever to his term as president. So that would be history in the making. And it'd be weird for Bill Clinton to be making history at this stage of his life. But I would have a lot of questions for him about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. I would want to ask him, did you pose for that painting that Jeffrey Epstein had of you in the blue dress? In case you're unfamiliar with what I'm talking about here. I assume most of you know the reference that I'm making, but I can pull up a picture here for Bill Clinton in the blue dress. This is an infamous picture which supposedly Jeffrey Epstein had. That's not good. All right. Well, I guess you all see the picture of him in the blue dress here. That is Bill. So I guess that would be one question I would ask him. What the hell's going on there? What the hell is going on there? I would anticipate him giving answers like, I have no idea what the hell that is. I certainly didn't pose for that. And in his traditionally trying to be charming way, probably making a comment about saying how those are much better than my legs or something like that. And trying to deflect from the uncomfortable implications of this portrait. But I would assume he would claim he certainly did not pose. But certainly there's a lot of questions you can ask about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know what you would ask Robert Mueller about Jeffrey Epstein. So it's a very confusing list. I'm not going to kid you. But anyway, here's our friend and yours, Scott Spencer, weighing in on today's developments.
U.S. House Oversight Committee news under the direction of Chairman James Comer. Well, they're busy today. This morning, Biden White House Deputy Chief of Staff Bruce Reed sat down with Comer's investigators as they're looking into the cover-up of Biden's mental decline. He is the 9th Biden official to appear before the committee. And in other news out of the Oversight Committee, this time on Epstein, Comer has issued subpoenas to a bunch of people that you have definitely heard of. Let's start with a list. Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, they're due to come in October. Several U.S. attorneys general on the list. Merrick Garland. I see James Comey on the list. There's Bill Barr, Alberto Gonzalez, Jeff Sessions, Robert Mueller, Loretta Lynch, and former U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder. A bunch of interviews and subpoenas have gone out for people to come into the Oversight Committee to talk about Epstein between August and October. Going to be a couple of busy months for Jamie Comer at the House Oversight Committee.
Now, I'm going to share with you my thoughts on this, about these subpoenas, before I get a little bit more into Epstein. Oh, let me get one more. I have one more clip I wanted to share with you about this. So I'll do that. And then I'll share my thoughts and I'll catch up on some chats where I see we're working toward our goal and doing good. We're doing well. I have high aspirations.
We are learning some new information this morning on the latest on the back and forth over the files related to Jeffrey Epstein. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer has issued a slew of deposition subpoenas from multiple people, including the Department of Justice, former President Bill Clinton, and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. CBS News Justice reporter Jake Rosen is following this for us from Washington. Jake, the big question now is what comes next here?
Well, that's right. That is the big question. And it comes as the House is adjourned right now down the street from us here in D.C., Mugo, because there would have been a floor-wide vote to potentially force the unsealing and public release of the Department of Justice's Epstein files. Speaker Mike Johnson did not want that, so they took a break for this part of the summer. The pressure has not stopped, and this is actually a semi-bipartisan resolution and statement from Chairman Comer, who has promised to get more information out of the Department of Justice and people who were involved in these Jeffrey Epstein investigations throughout administrations. There are former Trump officials here. Think about Bill Barr, Jeff Sessions. There are people from the Obama era, Robert Mueller, Merrick Garland, who obviously was the Attorney General under President Biden, Eric Holder, some names who really are from a different generation of politics, maybe than what we're living in now, but all whose Department of Justice or law enforcement organizations oversaw multiple investigations into Jeffrey Epstein. They want to sit down with these people, ask questions, and potentially get new answers out of them if there are any to be found. But the most interesting thing is the bipartisan resolution here, Mugo, to force the Department of Justice to release files from the multiple investigations, and in addition to that, a resolution to make sure that victims are protected, and also to force the release of any communications between the Biden Department of Justice and the FBI and White House about the Epstein files during President Biden's administration, obviously between 2020 and 2024.
Yeah, and Jake, we mentioned some very big names there. So how likely is it that they'll actually sit through a deposition?
Well, it depends on how much they want to fight this. There have been 3 instances in which a president has been compelled by Congress to subpoena. It's been Donald Trump, Harry Truman, and now potentially Bill Clinton. No president has actually sat down for any of these depositions so far, so likely President Clinton is not going to be forced to testify here. But
I mean, they were called to testify about things related to their presidency, as opposed to this, which is Bill Clinton's stellar work as a private citizen.
It's very possible that other law enforcement officials are going to have to fight this and at least state why, or potentially come in and plead the Fifth Amendment, like we're seeing right now in Congress in different congressional investigations into President Biden and his administration. But the big question really here is there even anything new that could be uncovered on this front, Amugo, as the political football is still being passed between the White House, Department of Justice, and the courts in New York of whether these grand jury testimonies have anything new, whether there's anything else there, or whether potentially any details of the conversation between Ghislaine Maxwell and the Department of Justice from last month could be released as well. We are still waiting word on that. But certainly it's been an all-court press, and the pressure is not going to stop, even though the House of Representatives is not in right now. The Oversight Committee making it clear they intend to get some answers.
Okay, so I'm going to explain to you what's going on before I catch up on chats. What is going on is this. James Comer and a bunch of other Republicans are a little bit nervous that their heads may be in jeopardy if they don't look like they're doing something on the Epstein files. They clearly don't want to release the files. If they did, they would have released them. I can understand the hesitancy to release the files as is because of concerns that, assuming we believe that Merrick Garland played around with those files to try and implicate Trump. I can understand why it is that they'd be hesitant to just throw that fodder out there and feed the ridiculous narrative that Trump was involved in any sort of illicit activity. So I can understand that. At the same time, there certainly has been a lack of transparency. Now, I don't know that to be the case. I'm assuming that given everything that's gone down over the last 4 to 6 weeks. But I'm going to tell you that congressional investigations are a dog and pony show. Always. Every single time. I defy you to find a single congressional hearing publicly aired that was anything but a dog and pony show. It's an opportunity for congressmen to show their constituents, hey, I'm out there and I'm making viral moments. There's no time this century that a single congressional hearing was where they subpoenaed witnesses was anything but an opportunity to go make a public statement on the record as to where I stand. I'm your congresswoman, and I'm standing here screaming that the other side is evil. I'm standing here saying what a terrible calamity this is, but I definitely want the public to see me yelling, and my yelling is not going to do anything. Nothing will happen from this. Nothing. This is a big fat nothing burger. Nothing. This is political theater. That they're basically able to say, you see, I was mad. I'm on your side, guys. I'm on your side. I'm one of the good ones. That's what this is. That's all it is. There is no possibility of anything coming out of this. If they get asked any questions, which you're praying they're going to answer, invariably they will either plead the fifth or dance around without actually answering the question. Those are the only possibilities as to what will happen if, in fact, these folks were to appear pursuant to the subpoena. And the objective of the subpoena is to conduct an investigation, which goes nowhere. Nowhere. If, in fact, it's for a criminal investigation, then they're properly pleading the fifth. And if it's not for a criminal investigation, why the heck? I mean, there's no point to this. This is a complete waste of time. Still, the idea of Bill Clinton appearing pursuant to subpoena, or Hillary being forced to answer questions pursuant to subpoena, or watching her plead the fifth, potentially, about questions related to her role in the Russia collusion narrative, is something that could be good theater. Can't deny it could be good theater. The only possible upside is we've seen moments where some of these people, particularly related to the Russia collusion hoax, with respect to Epstein, it's a complete nothing burger. Nothing burger. I mean, just ridiculously stupid nothing burger of I'm one of the good ones. That's what the Republicans here are doing on that. But with respect, I guess, to the Russia collusion hoax, to the extent that any of these people I don't want to name names because I'm not that kind of guy. Okay. But I'll make up a name. Okay. So let's assume, with respect to the allegations of the Russia collusion hoax, I'll make up a name, someone, I don't know, Hillary Schminton. So if Hillary Schminton were to get subpoenaed and deny things related to Russia collusion that could later be proven to be inaccurate, that could theoretically just further extend the cover-up and tie in all the other conspirators to extend your statute of limitations. Now, I don't know if in that whole array of people who are being subpoenaed, first and foremost, we don't even know if this is going to relate to the Russia collusion hoax because all the reports are talking about how this being Epstein. So we don't know if that's even they're going to be asked any questions about the Russian collusion scandal, the Russia Gate. We don't know if we're going to get any questions about Russia Gate. But what I'll tell you is, to the extent there are any answers about Russia Gate, which seem to be misleading statements or potential perjury, well, that in theory could lead to further prosecutions and helping the DOJ. So I guess if in fact on that list, somewhere hidden in that wide assortment of names, there is that, Mr. or Mrs. Hillary Schminton, who's potential conspirator in a Russian collusion hoax. Well, in that case, I guess that could theoretically help the DOJ, but this is like, I feel like I'm like just grasping at straws to find some sort of upside here. Grasping. So, yeah. This was funny. This made me laugh, Crow Minion. All right. Mismo SC, God bless you, trying to push us closer to our goal. Anthony works in the gross. Been here much longer than 13 months, but here's my free super chat. I get another coming towards the goal tonight. Cha-ching! There you go. Let's hit that goal. Let's hit it. Let's do it. We can do it. So easy. It's so easy. James Comer committee can only go over Epstein. Russiagate must go. Epstein. Russiagate must go through the judiciary. House oversight. No, I disagree. Why? Oversight? I would think oversight could relate to intelligence issues. I respectfully disagree. It's a good thought. I like how you're thinking. I like this is an analytical thought. I don't see why House oversight. This is related to the intelligence communities and twisting of the manipulation of the intelligence communities. That would feel like House oversight to me. I like the thought, though. Ozzy Mama is a thinking woman. Bill met with Obama's AG on a plane during Hillary's POTUS run. Bill Clinton met with Obama's Attorney General on a plane during Hillary's POTUS run. Okay. Biden showed that presidential privilege can be removed. Trump's presidential immunity case could limit. When you say Biden showed that, I assume you mean because of the Trump v. USA case that ended up coming out of his allegations. Trump's presidential immunity case could limit his ability to plead the fifth. I don't think he would have any ability to plead the fifth. He's a private citizen for the last 25 years. And I don't think they're asking about things that happened in the 90s. They may be asking about things that happened in the aughts. But they're not going to be asking about things that happened in the 90s. So I don't think that Bill Clinton's presidential immunity is going to be playing a role in anything that's going to happen, that's going to unfold here. That's just my personal assessment. Can POTUS access Congress's internal records due to separation of powers? Why does Congress think they can get POTUS records? I would think that for POTUS to get Congress's records, they need to. I would assume that they need to get a court order for that. Why does Congress think they can get POTUS's records? Which POTUS records are they looking to get? So you're confusing me with these last two super chats, Allegan, because I'm not sure which are they trying to get. You're saying Barack's records? They want to get any sort of interactions. First of all, they can issue a subpoena. And the question you're saying is that the subpoena should be binding on him. Well, I'll tell you, based on the subpoenas that were issued to Trump, which relate to things that he had to do as, that was a grand jury subpoena. That's judiciary. Those were grand jury subpoenas. I think there were congressional subpoenas also, which he was compelled to respond to. So it's not like they're making new headway in that area. No show to congressional subpoena can't get you Bannon treatment. No show to congressional subpoena can get you Bannon treatment. They'll just plead the fifth and fight in court. Well, I agree with you. Bannon ended up getting, he ended up being charged for his failure to show up and reply to a subpoena. Got convicted, and he went to jail for it. I don't think that. So I don't think they'll just not show, but we'll see. We will see. Mueller would be connected to Epstein because he was head of FBI from September 2001 to September 2013. He would have investigated Epstein. That's a good point. I thought of that. That's a good point. That is a good point. Okay. All right. So you want to know what happened with Acosta? Why wouldn't you get Acosta in here? I really want to know why. Where's Acosta? Did he? What did he like fall into the Bermuda Triangle? Why can't we get Alex Acosta in here? Just tell us what the hell happened. That's what we all want to know. The entire reason that we're all under the belief that this is some sort of intelligence connection is because the way Alex Acosta handled that prosecution in 2007. So why don't we just sit down and ask him what the hell happened? It's not that hard. Making a whole list of big names that you're issuing subpoenas to, frankly, Alex Acosta would be like number one on the list to me. Got it. POTUS records include AG records like Epstein. Yeah, they definitely get those records all the time. They subpoena those all the time. They clearly, I'm not going to walk you through where the law comes from, but we see all the time. Merrick Garland and Chris Wray had to come in, and Congress was demanding that they turn over records. And when they didn't turn enough records, saying, hey, you didn't turn enough records. So, yeah. And theoretically, the DOJ can get records from the other side. They might have to go through a court to get it, but they can get records. That happens all the time. All the time. Every time you saw Merrick Garland and they're like, well, why wasn't this in your response? Okay, well, we're compelling you to turn over more. And they always claim that they're going to. They never say you don't have the, you never hear anyone say, you're not the boss of me. You never hear that response. You're not the boss of me. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. But while we're talking about the Epstein situation, Ghislaine Maxwell is not a happy camper. She's not. All right. So Ghislaine Maxwell opposes release of grand jury transcripts in her trial. Maxwell, however, is in the process of appealing her conviction for sex trafficking and has argued that she should have been shielded from prosecution by an agreement that Epstein made with federal prosecutors. Okay. According to Just the News. Not really sure how this sentence ties into the previous sentence, but let's check this out. This is what I really wanted.
I know that you know what's going on. I know you've read what has now been declassified, and you heard my big long monologue at the top. This has to make your blood boil. As someone who worked in that agency and served our country through that agency, this has got to just absolutely infuriate you.
Well, it was highly disappointing, and it was disturbing to see how certain high-ranking members of the FBI and other government agencies allowed their own personal political preferences and ideological beliefs to, I guess you could say, poison the processes and practices that were in place. And looking over the information that was made public, I just think there are many questions that still have to be asked about FBI practice protocol and how those documents were found. And one last question I would ask very clearly: how many unique documents were found in those supposed burn bags that are not already logged into FBI and Department of Justice systems of record?
Yeah. I mean, still more questions than answers, it seems like. Maybe we're getting more, though. So you've got this shadowy figure over at the George Soros Open Foundation, Leonard Bernard, and then you have this Clinton advisor, Julianne Smith, and they are communicating. So this is now implicating a lot of other people. It's not just Hillary Clinton. It's not just Christopher Steele and everybody over at Fusion GPS. It's not just James Comey and James Clapper and John Brennan and Loretta Lynch. And I mean, honestly, I could rattle off 30 different names. But now we're starting to bring in even people like George Soros. The George Soros factor is interesting, though, because he almost seems to have his tentacles in everything that seeks to divide and destroy this country, doesn't he?
Well, he is a recognized globalist. He has certain ideological beliefs, and he has a lot of money and resource, and that buys you access. And unless we can shore up our cultural norms and make sure that our government agencies are operating in accordance with their assigned missions, eventually he's going to get a little more influence than he deserves or should have, no doubt.
Yeah. As I look at all this, it is very clear, as you were saying at the top, that there were people within the FBI who were willing to lay down their duty to their country and uphold their allegiance to a political party instead. Is the FBI in the habit of, or have they ever in the past, I wouldn't necessarily think they're in the habit of it, but have they ever in the past been in the habit of furthering intelligence that they knew was created by a political campaign? Because those involved in this at the FBI and the CIA, they knew that this originated with Hillary Clinton.
Right. No, that's a recent phenomenon, again, formed by people who were unable to navigate the political and social environments. The FBI always...
This entire party is so corrupt. It's unbelievable. It really is. It's like they're all sleeping with each other politically.
Dealt with objectivity and facts and investigative rigor. And that seems to have dropped off in the last several years in particular, where I think that people were more willing to lean in a certain direction, have an expected outcome, and then investigate to support their expected outcome. And I think that's a fatal error for an organization like the FBI.
Chris, are there too many FBI agents?
Some would think so, but I'll tell you this much. In the current threat environment, there aren't enough FBI agents. There are approximately 12 to 13,000, I think, on board right now. And when people look at that, they don't understand that, like, New York Police Department has, I think, almost 40,000 officers for the 5 boroughs of New York. And the FBI has 13,000 agents to cover the entire world. So I think it depends on how you define the mission.
Why is the FBI covering the entire world? Wait, what? What? No. You want to tell me the entire country? Okay. The entire world?
Scope of the FBI and what level of engagement you want the FBI to have. But I think right now they are undermanned and under-resourced when it comes to addressing certain threats that face the nation.
Introducing the Diablo 12 gauge shot.
All right. I'm not sure I agree with everything he just said there, but let's get back to our story here. That was a nice little sidetrack into the whole Obama issue. Ghislaine Maxwell, a former girlfriend and madam of late billionaire Jeffrey Epstein, is opposing the public release of grand jury transcripts related to her criminal case as she appeals her conviction. What's your basis for opposing it? Ghislaine Maxwell has not seen the material and cannot take an informed position, her attorney told the court. Given that she is actively litigating her case and does not know what is in the grand jury record, she has no choice but to respectfully oppose the government's motion to unseal it. So I can understand an attorney taking that position. You never want to have information out there that we have no idea what the hell it says. So attorneys by nature, in the process of trying to protect their clients, are going to be excessively cautious about something that could potentially be damaging to their client. So I can understand the attorney taking this position. I don't think that he's on he or she, because she had a heavy blend of talented attorneys on both sides, and we don't seem to get a name of this attorney. Her attorney. Which attorney are we talking about? Which attorney? We don't know. All right. Well, anyhow, that was her attorney. Her attorneys, moreover, have expressed. So it's nice that she's opposing it, but the fact that there's the only persons she's actively litigating before now are judges, rather than the public, rather than members of the public who can serve as potential jurors. I would think that her concerns about public disclosure are pretty well mitigated. Meaning we tend to just assume, rightly or wrongly, and probably wrongly, but that is the ongoing assumption, that judges have the ability to compartmentalize and approach the law based on law. And if they know facts that they're not supposed to know, they'll just sort of put those aside and not count those facts, discount those facts when they're reaching their conclusions of law. So just because there may be facts in there which say, let's imagine, let's just pretend that the facts that may be in there is evidence that Ghislaine Maxwell personally assaulted 20 girls. I'm not saying that's in there. I have no reason to think that is. But let's assume that there is something in the grand jury. So they're like, we don't want that to come out because she's got an active litigation going on. Yeah, but so what's going to be what's the harm of it? Like, how would that hurt your litigation? Do you think that now, when she's got a potential appeal before the Supreme Court, that's going to hurt her? I guess in theory, if she was to win a remand for a new trial, that would potentially be damaging if she were to successfully get a new trial. But it doesn't seem like she's really even asking for a new trial. The relief that she really seems to be seeking is a dismissal of the charges, saying that she is now, because the basis for her appeal to Supreme Court is saying, I was protected. The Attorney General had no right or power or authority to prosecute me because the immunity deal that Jeffrey Epstein signed in 2007 incorporated me as a co-conspirator. So as an alleged co-conspirator, so I was protected and I couldn't be prosecuted. So if in fact she was to be successful in that vein, well, then the charges would go away. It's hard to foresee a set of circumstances where she would end up having the guilt conviction set aside and getting a new trial. Either you win on this and then the charges go away, or you lose. And I don't think that even if there was information in there that was damaging to her as a person, that it's a realistic concern to say, well, now the Supreme Court is going to get really mad at her, so they're really going to say, go to hell. We don't tend to weigh those concerns as being legitimate. So I can understand why her attorneys would be taking this position. I just don't think that any court is going to find it to be particularly compelling. That's what I'm getting at. Attorney General Pam Bondi has asked the court to unseal the transcripts as part of a bid to bring some transparency over the Epstein case, which has dogged the administration for months. Maxwell, however, is in the process of appealing a conviction for trafficking and has argued that she should have been shielded from prosecution by an agreement Epstein made with federal prosecutors. So attorneys, moreover, have publicly expressed hope for a pardon from President Donald Trump. Oh my God, please never give him that. Though he has indicated he hadn't considered such a move. Nor should he. Worst thing in the world he could ever do. I will share with you that a lot of folks are expressing outrage over the idea that she was moved to a minimum security prison last week. I'm not surprised by that. That hopefully is the extent of the leniency that she would get in exchange for her testimony, assuming that could lead to convictions of third parties. So, yeah, but I certainly don't think in any scenario there should be a pardon. So there you go. That's the Ghislaine Maxwell update. She's not happy, and she's objecting to the idea of us getting public disclosures, or at least her attorneys are unhappy with that. And that shouldn't be surprising. As I said, if I was her attorney, I would take the exact same position. I just would expect it to lose. Sometimes you take a position that you don't think is particularly strong legally. You just sort of throw it out there because you throw out whatever you can that you think is best protecting your client. And then who knows? But like I said, I don't anticipate it's going to be particularly compelling. Now, I started the show off tonight, roughly 15 minutes ago. And the first thing I shared with you all, those of you who joined late, was the notion that the walls are closing in and how they kept using that language about Trump. I will say that the left seems to be, the legacy media seems to be very concerned about the walls closing in. Very, very, very concerned about the walls closing in because of this Obama scandal, Obama's administration and Russiagate. I think they're starting to get very, very scared about it. You can tell in their voice. Listen to Joe Scarborough as he tries to. Yesterday I shared two videos, one of Nicole Wallace, another of some chick no one ever heard of. Another Nicole Wallace. And both of them were as dismissive as possible of these charges, these allegations, unbased, unfounded accusations, allegations, certainly untrue with no evidence, totally a deflection and distraction from what everyone really wants to know about, which is the Epstein files. Totally nothing here to see. But just so you know, this did come up in a nothing to see kind of way. This sort of thing is grand jury probing and like totally fishing expedition, no reason whatsoever. You can tell from the framing just how scared they are. There are so many qualifiers. If you really believe that there's nothing to be afraid of, you wouldn't need so many qualifiers, but Joe Scarborough needs a lot of qualifiers.
Jonathan Ramirez, this is extraordinarily stupid. It's extraordinarily stupid on so many counts. If you look at the timeline.
It's not just stupid. It's extraordinarily stupid. Some things are stupid, but this is extraordinarily stupid. Let's hear how stupid it is. Let's talk about the timeline.
The timeline doesn't add up. It's like when Donald Trump is saying that Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton created the Epstein files. No. That all happened during Donald Trump's first term. You look at the timeline here about what happened and when it happened. Barack Obama had nothing to do with this by anybody's accounts.
No, by my account, he had a lot to do with it. By my account, it's all him, exclusively him. It's nothing happens without him. Every account and by all accounts, I'll tell you right now, that's a lie. Joe, that's a lie. Because here's my account. He specifically ordered his intelligence agencies to go out there and create what he knew to be bogus report that Russia and Putin did everything in their arsenal to try and help Trump win the election, which he knew to be a lie. And then he went out to the public doing interviews claiming that he's anticipating that he asked his intelligence agencies to get a report out before his administration expires to make sure that report would definitely get out there, which released to the public and leaked and then released and all this other, which is definitely going to tell us that before we haven't finished our investigation, but I'll tell you, it's going to show us what everyone here already knows, that Putin wanted Trump to win and did everything he could to help him win. So, yeah, everything about this, because if he actually came forward with the truth, like being honest with the American people and said, hey, look, I'm as blown away as anyone, but our reports indicate that Putin didn't have any preference for Trump. And I'm certainly, I have my intelligence agencies show you that, and they're not going to rely on discredited sources like some crap dossier that Trump's opponent in the election we just had generated to make up bad PR about him, which was obviously stupid and false. So yeah, every bit of this is Obama. Without Obama and his ridiculous approach here, none of this happens. None of it. So there is no individual on the planet who is more responsible for Russiagate than Barack Obama. So that's one guy's account. So you're already wrong.
And especially by the Senate Republican Intelligence Committee run by Marco Rubio, who afterwards said that it was Donald Trump's 2016 campaign that created a, quote, grave counterintelligence threat to the United States of America.
Where's that quote? Where's that quote? Show us that. What are you even talking about?
That was Marco Rubio, the current Secretary of State. That was every Republican on the Senate Intel Committee. After pouring through all of the documents, that's what they found. And when
what did the House Republicans find? Oh, just the opposite. So yeah, not everyone's take, jackass. Because it's not just my take. This is the take of what folks who were doing investigations 5 years ago came back with.
Or John Durham was made to sacrifice his professional career to go.
His sacrifice for his professional career has only just begun. Because I'll tell you, if there is justice that man will mete out in this world, John Durham is going to be listed as a defendant here for that ridiculous investigation he conducted. John Durham should be held up against a wall by his with all the other folks in the Epstein crew. And I know it's a different story. He's not part of the Epstein story, but just that disgusting, awful, terrible human being, John Durham. Because we had no idea how terrible he was until a couple of weeks ago. We had no idea. We all suspected. We're like, how the hell could it just be one person here? That makes no sense. And we find out that he was covering up for every one of these primo Democrats.
Go around the world investigating the investigators. He found nothing and ended up making a fool of himself. I mean,
no, he did make a fool of himself, but the fool, we only learned what a fool he was just a couple of weeks ago when Tulsi came out.
We even found out that the two documents that supposedly, fed into the Clinton conspiracy, that she was the one pushing this, actually was Russian disinformation.
You're still saying that? You're still saying that? Oh my, did you even read? Did you even read the report? Did you read the 2020? Did you read the 2020 report? Oh my God. Oh my God. The 2020 House Intelligence Report. Did you read it? Did you? Jackass.
So, again, they know in the Justice Department.
Wow. 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 Pathetic. This is why legacy media sucks. Terrible. Terrible. You wonder why your viewership is dwindling. It's because you're terrible at this. You're terrible at it. Ozzy Mama says that's what Anna Paulina Luna told Benny Johnson. So she's following up in case you weren't here earlier when she made a comment. But she had said Jim Comer's committee can only go over Epstein, Russiagate. Russiagate must go through the judiciary. And she's following that up by saying that's what Anna Paulina Luna told Benny Johnson this morning. I did not see that. I'm not sure what her basis for making that statement would be. I'm confused by it. I'm not going to kid you. They must stick to what the subpoena said, which is Epstein, but thanks for the credit. No, of course. Of course. And now you have a source. So, yeah, maybe she's correct and I'm missing something here. That's possible. Once in a while, I'll miss things. So maybe I'm missing something. I don't see why she would reach that conclusion, but I believe you that she said that. And she may be correct. I don't know. I struggle to understand why. But I should point out that there are certain things with respect to House rules which are perplexing to anyone who hasn't been inside the sausage factory, which is what, to see how the sausage is made. So when you're trying to figure out these committees and how things work inside Congress, there's so many different rules and bylaws and things of that nature that the only people who seem to have any comprehension as to how it's supposed to function are those who are there doing it, which is probably one of the reasons they keep getting reelected. So, yeah, in that sense, what I would tell you is this. Anna Paulina Luna, who I happen to like as a congresswoman, she certainly has a lot more knowledge, like infinitely more knowledge about how the sausage is made than I have. I was coming from a place of speculation based on what seems to make sense as an attorney and understanding how, from what we've seen from Congress. So that's where I'm coming from. Like, I don't understand why that would be. Doesn't make sense. But I would say that if you heard that from her, which I believe you did, and she understands more, and perhaps that's their current assessment, and maybe that'll change. I don't know. For my effort to hit the goal, I requested Joe's best I'm Mrs. Lawgic's awesome boo eyes. What? I don't even know what that. I'm Mrs. Lawgic's awesome boo eyes. It's probably not that. Probably not what I'm doing right now. Yeah. All right. Thank you, I guess. Maxwell wants to preserve her leverage. Of course she wants to try and preserve her leverage, but so you're saying that's why she does. She wants it could be that. It really could be that. Exactly what we just read, though. Attorneys tend to be very, very cautious about information being released, especially when they don't know what that information is. So I'm not surprised for them to take that tack. I actually would have been surprised if they took any other tack, because the go-to reserve is you say no, but they want to be respectful because they understand the pressures that everyone is under in the Trump administration. So I can understand they probably recognize those pressures and don't want to ruffle any feathers. That's the last thing they want to do. Joe, this is the best version of Joe Biden Scarborough. Yeah, Joe Biden Scarborough is, this is the one who said this is the best version of Joe Biden ever. He's more aged. He's wizened with experience. Smart as a whip. Take my word for it. He is very scared. That's why he's screaming at his... I scream for effect. I feel like he screams because of desperation. There's a difference. If you know, you know. All right. Let me take a quick check, make sure I didn't miss anything in the ghetto. We're good in the ghetto. We're doing well on our goal objectives. Very, very well on our goal objectives. Did I not? I didn't make a link. I didn't open this up. I should have opened up the chat here for the diggers. All right. The chat is now open for the diggers. I apologize, diggers. Okay. Let's transition over in ways that are totally as straight as possible to big balls. Can't have a straighter transition than that, right? Trump prepares federal takeover of D.C. after, oh my God, beat up by a bunch of thugs. I haven't checked this video yet. I'm assuming that this is one that's going to be useful. What is that? What is that? Okay, first and foremost, we're
going to have to either they're going to straighten their act out in the terms of government and in terms of protection, or we're going to have to federalize and run it the way it's supposed to be run. By the way, I have to say that somebody from Doge was very badly hurt last night. You saw that. a young man who was beat up by a bunch of thugs in D.C. And either they're going to straighten their act out in the terms of government and in terms of protection, or we're going to have to federalize and run it the way it's supposed to be run. But it's not a question of Doge. We have great people, secretaries and all.
So there you go.
Walden made.
There's his threat. Definitely don't need that. President Donald Trump expanded on his proposal for a federal takeover of Washington, D.C., saying he will stop violent crime in the city by young thugs. The president said that a young man who was working for Doge was very badly hurt and beat up by a bunch of thugs in D.C., as we all heard. The identity of the 19-year-old man involved in the reported incident is Edward Corristine, famously nicknamed Big Balls by his peers. That's right. You all heard of Big Balls, right? We all heard of Big Balls. He and Elon are the only two people who we actually remember work for Doge. Years from now, we'll all remember Elon and Big Balls running Doge. My friend Big Balls is a hero, wrote Corristine's friend Marco Elez on X, who said he took this photo after Edward protected a young woman from an attempted carjacking by 8 thugs. Wow. What? He really is big. This dude earned the name. If anyone ever earned his nickname, taking on 8 guys. Violence like this in the heart of D.C. is completely unacceptable, Les concluded. Big Balls was part of a group of brilliant youngsters working into the night, sleeping on office couches and surviving on pizza and Red Bull as part of Musk's original Doge crew. Trump appeared furious by the news. And that's his quote that we just heard. Earlier Tuesday, the president posted his thoughts on the matter in social media, describing crime in Washington, D.C. as totally out of control, especially among youths who are just 14, 15, and 16 years old. Look at that picture. Look at this guy. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. That is the picture I used for the thumbnail. Terrible. Dude is brave as anything. Kudos to him. Kudos to him. Oh, no. Why? We had such a good relationship, Daily Mail. Why would you do that to me? Reload. Back. Oh, my God. What is this? Oh, for the love of... Thank you. That was scary. If you see that pop up on your screen, like, and you're just sitting at home alone, that's vexing. It's far more irksome, at least in my experience, when you're trying to share a link as a podcaster. He said that young people were randomly attacking, mugging, maiming, and shooting innocent citizens because they knew they would get released as minors. They're not afraid of law enforcement because they know nothing ever happens to them, but it's going to happen now, Trump said. The president posted an image of the young Doge employee who was allegedly beaten with blood streaming down his face. Further details of the alleged attack were not available as the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C. declined to share specific details about the incident. Quote, no one who lives in, works in, or visits D.C. should experience this. It's horrific and disturbing. I cannot comment on specific cases, but I know what Metropolitan Police Department brings us cases with sufficient evidence of juveniles who have broken the law and hurt people. We will prosecute them and ensure that they face consequences for their actions, Attorney General Brian Schwab said in a statement to the Daily Mail. Trump urged officials to change the laws to prosecute violent teenage criminals, to prosecute minors as adults. I agree. Once they're engaging in violence with intent, when they have mens rea of intent, I would certainly move down. I wouldn't say necessarily a 12-year-old should be charged as an adult, but I would move it down considerably to like 14. DC must be safe, clean, and beautiful for the Americans, and importantly for the world to see, he wrote. If DC doesn't get its act together quickly, we'll have no choice but to take federal control of the city. Now, as a general rule, I'm not a big fan in any setting of, of federal agents going in and running things. That's not ideal to be engaging in police work, but it is a federal district, so it's a little bit less irksome. Elon Musk also expressed his concerns about the incident on social media, claiming that the gang of about a dozen young men tried to assault a woman in a car. So now the number increased from 8 to 12. That is him when he's not bloodied. And 19-year-old guy who basically, I think now, perhaps more than ever, he has life by the big balls. I mean, seriously, for a 19-year-old, could there possibly be better PR? And I wish him nothing but blessing. He seems to be a really good and based guy and a smart guy with, good morals. So, a little bit of a rebel attitude with the whole big balls nickname. So, and yeah, I know that most girls don't like the bad boy, obviously, but I think somehow he's probably going to be doing okay. I think he's going to be doing okay, and thank God it wasn't far more serious injuries. A Doge team member saw what was happening. Ran defender was severely beaten to the point of concussion, but he saved her, Musk wrote. It's time to federalize D.C. Earlier in the day, Janine Piro, Trump's new United States Attorney for the District of Columbia, also vowed to get tough on crime in a video posted from the White House. Oh, let's check that out. That sounds like something we should see.
Hi, everyone. It's Judge Janine. In case you don't know or recognize the background, I'm at the White House. I just met with the president. We talked about crime in the nation's capital. We talked about fighting crime, and the president is very serious about making sure that as the prosecutor here, that we not only fight crime with a vengeance, but make sure that there are consequences. Make sure that we protect the victims and we make the criminals accountable. And that's the mission of the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C., not just in district court, but in all the courts, the superior courts. Our job is to get guns off the street, drugs off the street, take care of those individuals who are threatening, carjacking other people, and make this city safe and clean again. And that's just what we're going to do.
Here, here.
You don't buy into it, you're going to have to deal with us.
Here, here. I have a question for the women folk who are watching now. Question for the women folk, and this is going to shock a heck of a lot of you that I'm asking this question, but I couldn't help but notice the shoes. Okay? The shoes, which seem to like just flawlessly match the jacket, like ridiculously well. Do you think she happened to find a pair that matched quite that well? Or do you think that she had like, white pumps and had them dyed to match? That's the question. That's the question I have. That's the curiosity, because I'm just, I was, the entire time she was talking just now, I was just astonished at how well her shoes and jacket match. That's because it's not a common color. This is not a color you just like go into a store and you're like, oh, wow, that just happens to be the perfect color. My gut says dyed, but I am curious what your thoughts. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. And were any of you, it's not gay. No, it's a reality. I'm very curious. No, I'm astonished by the lengths women go to for fashion. I find it an astonishing thing. Like, oh my God, you work so hard. There's so much effort that, like, okay, this is something we should discuss. Okay, I'm going to discuss this with you all for a moment. There are roughly 93 reasons I thank God every day, and I mean literally every day, that I was born a man. Okay? And obviously, the easy ones, are the whole, everything related to the lower half of the body, like what they have to deal with, from the pregnancies to the childbirth to the monthly issues. And then the hormones that are raging, everything about it. Oh my God. Oh my God. Every day, without fail, every day, it's actually part of our prayers is men thanking God for not being born a woman. I'm being real with y'all. But up there on the list for me is just the relentless efforts that women have to put in for fashion. You're talking about the makeup and the hair and the shoes and the nails and the every element of being a woman just seems so exhausting. Like, oh my God, you probably have to spend just like, I don't know, like 18 hours a day just taking care of your appearance. The continual like worrying, is your hair, is it worrying about like the weather being like a bad hair day? Oh my God, there's so many things. So a lot of you men, I'm just going to say, you might look at your woman and you say to yourself, why are you so flagrant all the time? You probably asked your woman that question more than once before. You probably looked it over her and said, why are you so flagrant all the time? If that is a question that crossed your mind, I'm just going to say that between all the bodily issues they're dealing with, like, from the waist on down to the makeup and the fashion and the nails and the hair and all the other stuff there, I'll tell you right now, I don't think you can handle it. I don't think you can handle it as well. Yeah. So I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So when I see a woman who clearly, I mean, come on, let's face it, this woman clearly worked very hard to ensure that this was going to be perfectly matched to that in a very unusual color. I'm like, I think it's appropriate to just say, oh, mad props. Well done. Well done. So now, there you go. Joe, we got this one. They don't have to take over DC. The feds have dual jurisdiction, just like the sheriff does in a city. Fed can charge federal crimes anytime. Is that true? It's probably true. Makes sense. Joe, my only Jew and now my only gay friend. That was like the least gay thing in the world I think I've ever said. And I've said a lot of very ungay things in my life, but that might have been up there as like the least gay thing I've ever said. When you consider what it's rooted in. So I'm perfectly fine in my heteroness. Royal blue shoes aren't hard to find. Hard to find someone to dye them. Good heels last years without going out of fashion. So there you go. Kimmy's telling me I'm wrong. She's telling me I'm wrong. She's like, you know what you're talking about. No. Women's fashion goes in seasons, and there are specific colors each season set by the inside. So she probably bought both in a season that was a color, that the color was the color. 0% chance she dyed those shoes. All right. The only reason I ever heard of it is I remember for a wedding that a family member of mine had to get their shoes dyed. And that's the first time I ever heard of the concept. And I was like, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. But then I was like, so that's why if I see a color that's a weird color, I'm just like, ever since then, I've become very, very like I figured people who have a lot of money may dye a lot of pairs of shoes. Brian's coming in here, coming in strong. He's like, no, we are crossing that threshold. Brian is crossing that threshold. So not true. Lies and the lying liars who tell them lies. Brian Ogden coming in here hot and heavy as well. All right, just stop it. Coming in strong as we're nearing our goal, getting ever closer, ever closer. Wellesley, dude, answer. They just had to spray paint it blue or maybe dip it in blue paint or put duct tape on it. Of course, it'll match. Yes. That's the dude answer. They just had to spray paint in blue or maybe dip it in blue paint or put duct tape on it. Of course, it'll match. Yeah, everything's fine. as the Bryans are trying to push us over the goal. Look at this, as 3 from Brian Oldingham. I'm gonna give you the horn for that. I'm just gonna give you that because I appreciate the sincere effort, the blatant effort to help us cross our threshold. God bless you, brother. All right. So that was that story. I'm feeling like there's a good chance I'm going to end up learning about AOC's scandal. I saw like a blurb on it, and I was like, this feels like it's like a little bit of a reach at this stage, but maybe it's more. I don't know. So let's get back to Texas. Yesterday, we were talking about how things were unfolding in Texas. I have more thoughts on it, and there's been more development. So I wanted to cover that with y'all as well today. So let's spend a moment talking about that. Today, Attorney General Ken Paxton said, breaking, I will seek judicial orders declaring that runaway Democrats who failed to appear by the Speaker's deadline have vacated their office. Now, in case you missed yesterday, first and foremost, shame on you. Second of all, what we discussed was this. Texas, just to give you a quick background here as we get into this story, because you should be aware of this story. Texas decided they want to redistrict their map. It's controlled. Texas is controlled, as you would imagine, by Republicans. So they decided they're going to pass legislature to redistrict the map. And in response, this was in response to Trump's call for a redistricting, because they say that if they properly redistrict, they can probably squeeze out an extra 5 seats in the House, flip them from blue to red. So they said, why aren't you redistricting to try and get us some more seats? This started a response from two Democrat governors, J.B. Pritzker and Gavin Newsom. Because what happened was, I was unaware of this yesterday, I learned this today, Hakeem Jeffries went down to Texas because the federal government, the House Democrats are very nervous about the idea of losing a bunch of folk, one of which would likely be Jasmine Crockett, according to reports I've seen, so that she's one who's probably going to be redistricted into a strongly red type of way, and that's an awesome way to say F you to Jasmine Crockett, who should never have been elected anyway she shouldn't have been elected to be part of a PTA board, much less to be a sitting member of the House. So the Democrats marched out of the state capitol and basically said, we're leaving so that you don't have a quorum. Now you can't conduct any House business, not the redistricting, not state aid for victims of the flooding. We're not going to be able to do anything. And then they fled to Illinois because Governor Pritzker said, hey, come on up here and I'll give you sanctuary status so you can't be prosecuted. Now, Governor Abbott of Texas basically said, hey, I'm going to be issuing warrants for your arrest. I don't know if he actually can. And we were talking about the idea yesterday. We were reviewing Texan law to try and figure out whether or not they can be declared abandoned and lose their status as being members of the state legislature. Now, for a quorum, you need to have 150 people there, and apparently 50 Democrats left. So to strip them of their quorum, I don't know. I guess it must be 51 or so who left, that they know they can't get a quorum without them. Before we go further, I'm going to tell you that this is what I anticipate the best way to make this end quickly is really go after one of them or 3 of them. Because if a couple of them see that they're in danger of losing their status as being a legislator, they will all cave. They will all come running back. And apparently, another thing I should share with you is claims that in the inside story here that the House, the Speaker of the House for the state of Texas, decided to call a break in their session, which enabled them to leave, knowing that that's what they were going to do. And he's a Republican, which only goes to show just how screwed up Texan politics is. Very, very screwed up. Very, very screwed up. But anyhow, so Ken Paxton would be the person who would actually go after them for abandonment and try and get a court order saying, you've abandoned, you lost your position here. And he said that that's what he's going to do. The people of Texas elected lawmakers, not jet-setting runaways looking for headlines. If you don't show up to work, you get fired. Attorney General Ken Paxton will seek judicial orders declaring that runaway Democrats who abandoned their legislative duties vacated their office. This is for immediate release, and this was released today. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so we can all read along together, because isn't that way more fun? Where is this? There you go. Attorney General Ken Paxton will seek judicial orders declaring that runaway Democrats who abandoned legislative duties vacated their office. Attorney General Ken Paxton has announced that the continued refusal to perform legislative duties by Texas House Democrats who broke quorum constitutes abandonment of office, and that he will pursue a court ruling ensuring that their seats are declared vacant to be replaced. Speaker of the Texas House, Dustin Burrows, has given members until Friday, August 8th to return to Texas and present themselves before the House. Any lawmaker who has not been arrested and returned or fails to appear by the Speaker's deadline will be subject to aggressive legal action by Attorney General Paxton. Quote, Democrats have abandoned their offices by fleeing Texas, and a failure to respond to a call of the House constitutes a dereliction of their duty as elected officials, said Attorney General Paxton. Starting Friday, any rogue lawmakers refusing to return to the House will be held accountable for vacating their office. The people of Texas elected lawmakers, not jet-setting runaways looking for headlines. If you don't show up to work, you get fired. Rulings issued by the Supreme Court of Texas do not allow the minority faction in the legislature to improperly interfere with the legislative majority's prerogative to conduct business. By removing themselves from the state for the explicit purpose of interfering with the proceedings of the Texas legislature, Democrats are refusing to perform their duties in a manner that amounts to abandonment of office. So get your ass back here by Friday, or we're coming after you. Which is exactly what they should be doing. Exactly what they should be doing. It's like, okay, you played your little fun and games. This is a healthier approach than what Governor Abbott's doing, where he's saying, I'm going to come charge you with bribery and all that other stuff. That's never going to happen. That's what you say to make headlines. This is what you do to get results. And Ken Paxton is doing far more to get results than the governor is. Now, he's also in certain ways better positioned to get results. If the runaway members of the legislative minority do not return to the House and resume performance of the duties by the deadline, Attorney General Paxton will seek judicial relief confirming that their office is vacant. The part of the reason you send this out here is because it is good PR for you, because he is seeking higher political office, potentially to become the next governor of Texas. So that's one reason you do this. Another reason you do this from a legal perspective is by putting them on notice of this. If in fact they decide to disregard this letter, it sort of can help fortify the claim that they have intentionally abandoned. You give them notice 2 days before they have to come back. They clearly can make their way back over the next couple of days if they're so inclined. So their failure to come in on Friday would be that much more violative of their duties, and that would better your chances of success for having them declared to have vacated their position, right? If you send out a letter like this and they still don't show up, it's like, look, we gave them warning. We're going to come after them. So you're going to be going into a judge, asking the judge to have them deemed vacated. And you're like, it's not like we asked them to come. We told them, if you don't come back by Friday and cure this, we gave them time to cure it. They played their little games, gave them time to cure it. We said, come back here. They're still not coming. What else can we do but have them deemed vacated? It's a far more sympathetic argument that you're making before a judge for them to say, yeah, what are we supposed to do? They're holding up the entire legislature. They don't have the right to do that. You can't conduct any business. That's insane. So by taking this approach, it has double benefit for Ken Paxton. Number one, and perhaps from his perspective, most significant, politically, this is a masterstroke of looking like you are someone who gets things done and riling up the base in support of you being someone who's based and gets things done. So politically, it's a great move. And legally, it's a great move because you're basically strengthening your position if in fact they remain derelict. I guess there's a third benefit, which is that to the extent that those Democrats may seek advice of counsel, I am sure their counsel will tell them, yeah, this makes things worse for you if you don't show up. If they're, halfway honest with their own clients, and usually you would be, they wouldn't say it out loud. They wouldn't tell the public that, but they'll tell the clients that, hey, if you don't show up, this makes things worse for you. So you really might want to consider going back there. Because otherwise I'm going to end up having to try to defend why it is that you disregarded this. And you're on weak ground. So this was a masterstroke by Ken Paxton. And we applaud. Well done, Ken. He's a pretty good lawyer. He really is. Pretty good lawyer. Pretty smart guy. So you don't hear me say that very often. You don't hear me say that very often. Okay, so I'm getting more background here. It's common in a wedding to dye satin shoes so all the bridesmaids completely match. See, this is something I did not know. I probably could have existed without ever knowing it, but I appreciate you informing me, Kimmy. But I guess that makes sense. One more, guys. God bless you. How close are we? I feel like we're we hit our goal. Look at that. we hit our goal. Huzzah, chat. Well done. Well done indeed. Rackets covering Texas is well live now. Can we just do a co-stream? Just don't cross the streams? Is he? Is he indeed? I didn't realize that. Did you hear Ken Paxton got accused of mortgage fraud? I can't believe he's that dumb. He wants to run for a seat, I think. What is everyone doing the mortgage fraud thing? I didn't hear that. But I feel like that's like where the direction everyone's going now. I read that due to Republicans doing this in Oregon and bin or law was passed, the House who participated in a walkout cannot run for any office in the state again. Greatly paraphrased by me. It's a logical thing to do. That's the way to keep them glued to their seats. It's a smart move. And that's how it should be. You're playing games. How is this not the same thing as obstruction of process January 6, 2.0? It is very, very similar. It's a very astute point you're making, Charles. It's very similar. However, the Supreme Court ruled that under federal law, that's not what they mean when they wrote 18 U.S.C. 1512 C2, which was the obstruction charge that many of them faced. Meaning, based on the way obstruction was charged against hundreds, if not over 1,000 J6 defendants, your read would be very apt. However, fortunately, the Supreme Court has since interceded in the case of U.S. v. Fisher and ruled that 18 U.S.C. 1512 C2 is referring to obstruction from some sort of trial proceeding in a way that has some sort of relationship to the other obstruction charge listed in 18 U.S.C. 1512 C1, meaning that you're destroying evidence in contemplation that you're going to be prosecuted. So there has to be some sort of way that you're destroying evidence in order to get hit with an obstruction charge or making it difficult for you to become prosecuted. The idea of obstructing in the form of interceding with an ongoing proceeding by having a rally or fleeing, I would say, under US v. Fisher probably would not be a viable charge. But that was a great question. Thanks. I got the smartest. I have the smartest freaking audience in the world. I didn't even think of that question, but so my answer is that before US v. Fisher, I think that probably could have been a valid claim. In the wake of US v. Fisher, I think it's not. That's my best guess. Don't want to cover this. This is more on Texas. I think I covered. I think this is just going to be repetitive. Actually is a little bit different. I am going to go through this. I want to read this real quickly. This is from Amuse, who's an account on X. I don't know if anyone knows his name. I don't really care. But he wrote this article. I don't even know if he's an attorney or not. He's someone who's just a popular influencer on X. If you're not on X, you probably never heard of him. But he occasionally will write articles. I don't think he's an attorney, given how he's worded some of his articles, but I could be wrong. But he is pretty based and relatively smart. So he's talking about political truancy with people fleeing. And he writes that the temptation to escalate is understandable. Some within the Republican majority have called for the vacancy to be declared vacated by the member and for the governor to call special elections to replace them. But that impulse, though emotionally satisfying, is strategically and constitutionally unwise. The best response is not escalation, it's resolve. Let the absentees accrue fines, apprehension costs, hotel and travel costs, endure public embarrassment, and suffer the indignity of watching Texas move on without them. In short, wait them out. To understand why this course is not merely the most lawful, but the most effective, we must first consult the House rules and the Constitution itself. Rule 5, Section 10A is plain. Members absent without leave when a quorum is not present are automatically fined $500 per day. No motion is required. No vote is taken. The rule operates with the mechanical indifference of a parking meter. Okay. Further, Section 10B makes clear that the costs incurred by the Sergeant at Arms in securing attendance, including mileage, per diem, and police escort, are also borne by the absentee. These are not idle sanctions. They add up quickly. I agree. They probably do add up quickly. However, they're raising money to help support their walkout. So there's that factor. Now, Abbott claims he would charge them with bribery if they raise money for that. You know if those charges are going to stick. Consider this. The sergeant at arms were to assign a uniformed officer to stand watch at the home of each missing lawmaker, as has been done in previous sessions. The cost could be $1,200 per day per member. That cost, like the fine, is deducted directly from the member's salary or per diem. There's no avoiding it, and the social cost may exceed the financial one. Is it really a social cost if they're being hailed as heroes for walking out? What family wishes to wake each morning to find a police car parked on the curb, a visible reminder of political dereliction? What neighbor will refrain from asking why? I respectfully disagree with this take. They are the deliberate tools of constitutional enforcement designed to bring lawmakers back. Look, I don't have a problem with hitting them with charges. You should. I don't have a problem with Abbott threatening to go after them for bribery to sort of scare them that they're going to have to face the financial impact of this. Because if it's $1,000 a day, that adds up very, very quickly. Few people who are politicians, unless they're in the federal government, where you can be crooked as the day is long and no one's going to stop you. But in state government, you would think it's very tricky for them to actually, eat $1,000 a day for very long. Texas House Democrat who broke quorum, in case in point. It's not an overreaction, but a measured, lawful response. You can walk and chew gum. I don't think you can only do one. Some would argue that, which brings the question of whether fleeing the state constitutes vacating a seat. Some would argue that it does, and the House of Governors has the power to declare it so, but the Texas Constitution, Article 3, sets forth no such mechanism. You don't need it in the Constitution. You have it in your statutes. A seat becomes vacant when a member dies, resigns, is convicted of felony, or otherwise becomes legally disqualified. We looked through this yesterday. Were the House of Government to declare the seats vacant, Democrats would immediately file suit. They wouldn't declare them vacant. They're going to court to try and get it declared vacant. So, and potentially can get an expedited declaratory judgment in a couple of weeks. You know, that they can be deemed absent and I think that if they see that their positions are potentially in jeopardy for not coming in, I think they'll come flooding back. So I think that there's no reason to do only method A or B. I would employ every method available. Like it's not like you're forced to choose which. Well, it's not like you're forced to choose whether to use a gun, a knife, or poison. You can use all three. So. Use all three. And that's what it seems like they're doing. So you gotta like the way Texas is being run in this particular matter. Joe, aren't states other than Texas redistricting? From what I saw, there are calls for Ohio to do redistricting also. We also talked about how yesterday how California did redistricting in 2008 before Newsom came in, and then they passed some new legislation which basically said that districting is going to be handled by an independent commission, but these independent commissions tend to be run by whoever's in power, which is why I really think that they should call Gavin Newsom's bluff and not worry twice about it. And besides, the idea that Gavin Newsom should start dictating what the hell should happen in Texas with the way he's run that state is just asinine. So if I was Abbott, I would tell Newsom he can go cry wherever he wants. So here's a story you may not have heard about, which I thought was interesting. We'll break it with a video. New story as I wanted to share with you about immigration judges being fired.
We hired without warning two now former female federal immigration judges say their terminations are part of what
No. I respectfully dissent. If those are the two judges there, I do not think those are two female immigration judges. That's my perspective. I'm saying I don't think they are. And probably why they're being fired.
they see as an obvious.
And I think they is probably the most appropriate. That's a lab meat eater right there.
Pattern.
We have seen that women and minorities have been disproportionately affected. This clearly raises serious concerns about transparency, fairness, and due process in our courts. I call for full transparency regarding our terminations.
No, shut up. No one cares. No one cares.
Judge Carla Espinosa's
an immigration judge is pretty much like a parking meter judge.
Termination email came as she sat on the bench in Chicago's immigration court July 11th. In the span of a few days, two more female colleagues got the same email from the Executive Office of Immigration Review, the division of the Department of Justice that oversees immigration courts.
I worry the EOIR has lost its mission.
The I-team broke.
I'm gonna say that's a pretty good affectation. They're giving me a pretty good affectation here. You gotta admit when it's like a pretty good affectation. Much better job than Cory Booker does.
Broke the story of Assistant Chief Judge Jennifer Payton's firing last month.
I'm really mostly worried about our country.
After years leading Chicago's immigration court, Judge Payton says the overburdened system she helped oversee is buckling.
Since January 2025, I've watched my professional colleagues and friends, over 100 of them, be either fired, resign, or transferred to other government jobs. Even more judges have simply quit.
I'm going to say, okay, now we're going to have a poll. We're going to have a poll about whether this judge has a poll. Because the voice, I don't know. The voice is pretty. That's a pretty effective. If you just close your eyes, you wouldn't think that that's okay. I have a poll, and I'm gonna check the ghetto also after I finish this. So just I now maybe perhaps if they've gone through surgery. So the poll is: fire Judge Linebacker is female, they, them'd, or Judge Tuck. We'll see how our poll we'll see how our poll does here. But I'm going to check. Tell me in your Dangerous D-Sex is saying female. See? Listen to the voice. That's a pretty good job. You gotta give credit where it's due.
Overburdened system she helped oversee is buckling.
Since January 2025, I've watched my professional colleagues and friends, over 100 of them, be either fired, resign, or transferred to other government jobs. Even more judges have simply quit. That leaves perhaps 600 immigration judges now, down from a high of a little over 700.
Judge Payton's ouster came weeks after a meeting with Illinois Senator Dick Durbin at.
She looks like she's about to bash him in the head. So yeah, she's hanging out with Dick Durbin. Good night, Dog Digger. Good night, Dog Digger. I'm curious how my poll is looking. Look at this. Look at this. The poll is surprising me. It's not at all that's completely inaccurate. I was actually very respectful to women just like a half hour ago. But where was we? Okay. Where was we? Oh yeah, okay. So I wanted to share more on this. Let's take a deeper look at this story. More immigration judges terminated as Trump administration works to cut down massive case backlog. There have been more firings of immigration court judges in Chicago and nationwide, and former judges are speaking out saying they were given no explanation for the termination. I'll tell you why, because you were letting all of them go. That's probably why. They probably looked at your numbers and they're like, yeah, your numbers are insane. 2 recently fired immigration judges appeared at a news conference on Monday hosted by Illinois Senator Dick Durbin to call attention to what Durbin has labeled a continued abuse of power of President Donald Trump's administration. One of those judges who led Chicago's immigration court first spoke with I-Team last month, saying she was terminated without cause or reason after working for the court for 9 years. I'll tell you right now, if you work for like city traffic courts and you don't have a sufficient numbers that are coming in there, you're statistically off compared to other judges, that you're too many people are walking, they'll fire you. They will fire you. That's what's going to end up happening, because all those traffic fines, they are all revenue streams for the city. Whatever municipality you're talking about, it's a revenue stream. And if you're sitting there and you're basically snipping off that revenue stream by deciding that you're going to, let everyone go, they're going to let you go. And same thing with immigration court. It makes sense. Those terminations are taking place at a critical time for the country's immigration system. In the midst of Trump's administration carrying out one of the president's top policy directives to deport undocumented migrants in the country as quickly as possible, clearly these individuals were not helpful in that regard. Obviously, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. Immigrant rights advocates argue that the pursuit of that goal, the administration is ignoring the due process rights for those seeking asylum or pleading their cases to stay in the country. Immigration judges who once presided those cases have since been terminated share those same concerns. These unjustified terminations have significantly weakened immigration courts nationwide at a time of increased tensions in immigration enforcement, said former immigration judge Carla Espinoza. How did I know to read that in a female voice? And she was fired on July 11th. After adjudicating immigration cases for Chicago's courts all the way since 2023. Oh my God, a storied career here that goes all the way back to 2023. Espinoza said she received a termination email while she was on the bench presiding over her docket. I really hope that the email opened up. Like it's like you sort of click the email and it opened up to like a little video of Trump going, "You're fired." That would have been great. That's what he needed to do. Have a whole "you're fired" thing going on there. You're fired. In the span of a few days, 2 more female judges got the same email from the acting director of the Executive Office for Immigration Review, the Division of the Department of Justice that oversees immigration courts. Espinoza believes there's a pattern in the judges who've been terminated that's not based on performance. Well, I'm sure that's what you believe. That's what you're going to claim, because everyone who gets fired claims it's wrongful termination. Have you seen that women and minorities have been disproportionately affected, as Espinoza said on Monday? Yeah, well, let's look at your stats. This clearly raises serious concerns about transparency, fairness, and process in our courts. I call for full transparency regarding terminations. I'm sure you're going to end up bringing a lawsuit. That's an employment suit, so go to hell. It's got nothing to do. If you're wrongfully terminated, then seek your restitution in court. You're going to be seeking that out in court inevitably. So go seek it out in court. You're still gone. When Trump returns to the White House this year, 20 judges preside over Chicago's immigration court. As of Monday, according to the Justice Department website, there are just 13 managing more than 221,000 pending immigration asylum cases in Chicago's court. Since January 2025, I've watched my professional colleagues and friends, over 100 of them, either be fired or resign or transferred to other government jobs, Payne said on Monday. Well, there's only 7 who are gone from the bench, so I don't know about the other 93, Jennifer. Even more judges have simply quit. That leaves 600 immigrant judges, now down from a high of a little over 700. Payne was fired weeks after meeting with Illinois Senator Dick Durbin at Chicago's immigration court. Well, that could be a reason right there. Judge Payne's termination is abuse of power by the administration, punishing a non-political judge for simply doing her job. Really? What part of her job is she supposed to meet with you? What part of her job is that? Where's that in the Where's that on the whole resume? Because why is she meeting with you, Dick Durbin? Why are you meeting with them? Unless you're trying to push them in a particular direction. So yeah, that's a good way to get him to stop meeting them. Is, hey, if you meet with Dick Durbin, you're fired. It's really very easy. Spokesperson for the Department of Homeland Security told the I-Team making arrest that an immigration court is common sense. Nothing in the Constitution prohibits arresting a lawbreaker when you find them. The Executive Office for Immigration Review has declined to comment or answer the I-Team's questions about the recent firings. Why would they? It's not. They shouldn't. In a policy memo issued to all judges a week after Trump's inauguration, EOIR's acting director said the past 4 years have severely undermined EOIR's core values, and the agency is now reworking to reestablish those values. Payne believes the court system she joined in 2016 is rapidly changing. Since January 2025, the immigration courts under EOIR are no longer honoring or offering due process like they did when I was appointed. Yeah, because your form of due process is basically like, welcome to America, welcome to America, welcome to America. And it should be a fuera. So, yeah. If you take funds directly from pay, can they raise money and take it directly under campaign finance? Wonder what Texas law said on political donations. I don't see how that would work. I'm not even going to begin exploring campaign. I wouldn't even do that for federal campaign finance laws. This is like, you might as well ask me to learn how to change a carburetor in a Jaguar. Like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I know you mean well. I'm just saying, election finance law is so convoluted that, yeah. I'll tell you right now. I expect that when my time on this earth has come to a conclusion, and they look back on all the accumulations of knowledge that I've managed to accumulate during whatever number of years that is, whether that's that's tens of decades from now or whenever, I expect to have similar levels of knowledge about both how to change a carburetor in a Jaguar and Texan campaign finance law. If it's not too much trouble, can you possibly give me a redirect? I should. Let's do that. It's a very close poll, by the way. I was trying to set that up earlier. I was looking for it. I was looking for you earlier, and it wasn't working. Oh gosh, it's so annoying when I have to do that. They don't like finding you. When I want to try setting up the redirect, they really don't like finding you. There it is. Okay. Yeah, that would be appropriate.
Shane wanted out 2018. Her boys moved into an apartment.
There you go. There you go. Only 6 immigration judge job open currently. I thought BBB was going to add more. Just check usajobs.gov. Sorry, I was wrong. There are a lot more immigration judge openings posted in locals to joke and apply in Safeware. That judge needs blue shoes. She does. She needs blue shoes. All right. I promised I was going to cover 2 more topics if we hit our goal, and we hit our goal. So we're going to do that. The first one I already have set up, and that is highlights from today's presser where Trump stepped in there. A little surprise, surprise, mother, surprise, Justin Tucker. Trump made a series of stunning announcements at a White House press briefing. Trump and Pam Bondi revealed major announcements and hinted at what's coming next to America. Trust me, it only gets crazier as you read on. Here's everything you should know. This was the theme that I saw, and I was like, all right, I definitely want to check this out with you guys. So I'm very pleased that we hit our goals. Very pleased indeed.
This morning, the Supreme
This is going to have to be louder.
Court has delivered a monumental victory for the Constitution, the separation of powers, and the rule of law in striking down the excessive use of nationwide injunctions to interfere with the normal functioning of the executive branch. The Supreme Court has stopped the presidency itself. That's what they've done. And really, it's been an amazing period of time this last hour. There are people elated all over the country. I've seen such happiness and spirit. Sometimes you don't see that, but this case is very important. This morning,
He's so Trump. He's so Trump. So what was that Supreme Court? What is he referring to here? SCOTUS nationwide injunctions. If I start doing research on each of these clips, this is going to take a while. I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna be here a minute, Jim. So this is today's. So I don't know what he's referring to because that was a month ago. So I'm not sure what that's referring to. I knew a month ago.
properly filed to.
Oh my gosh, I got loud.
Because hundreds of thousands of people are pouring into our country under birthright citizenship, and it wasn't meant for that reason. It was meant for the babies of slaves. So thanks to this decision, we can now properly file to proceed with these numerous policies and those that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis, including birthright citizenship, ending sanctuary city funding, suspending refugee resettlement, freezing unnecessary funding, stopping federal taxpayers from paying for transgender surgeries, and numerous other priorities of the American people. We have so many of them. I have a whole list. I'm not going to bore you, and I'm going to have Pam get up and say a few words, but there's really, she could talk as long as she wants because this is a very important decision. This is a decision that covers a tremendous amount of territory. But I want to just thank again the Supreme Court for this ruling. It's a giant case because
I don't know what he's referring to. I'm not going to kid you. I'm very baffled by this because I actually just checked it out. So, also the shocking district breakdown. Out of 94 total districts in America, just 5 liberal districts issued 35 of the 40 nationwide injunctions blocking Trump's agenda. 5 districts controlling policy for 330 million Americans.
Put this in perspective. As the Supreme Court held today, they turned district courts into the imperial.
I'm very confused by this. I'm very, very confused. Why?
Judiciary. Active liberal justices.
See, the nationwide injunction thing, am I the only one? It's like a freaking month old. This thread is today. It's got literally 10 to 15,000 likes on every single thing. And I don't remember seeing this. And I also, the reason I'm so perplexed is because I saw a clip of Trump talking about Todd Blanche meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell. So this is why I'm getting very, very confused. So I'm going to march forward. You're all sitting here saying, isn't this video old? Well, not all of you. So I'm very confused because this decision that they're saying happened today happened a month ago. This thread was made today. And it got thousands of likes. So I'm like, okay. But she's talking, I mean, all right, we're just going to march forward. If this video is a month old, we're going to pretend
Judges
that
have
this happened
used these
today.
injunctions to block.
I don't want to mislead any of you here as to my utter confusion as to what I'm looking at. This is why I normally research my topics. These are two topics I'm covering, which I threw in here as if we hit our goal. So, and I warned at the outset that I haven't had a chance to review this yet. So, yeah.
Block virtually all of President Trump's policies. To put this in perspective, there are 94 federal judicial districts. 5 of those districts throughout this country held 35 of the nationwide injunctions. Think about that. 94 districts. And 35 out of the 40 opinions with nationwide injunctions came from 5 liberal districts in this country. No longer. No longer. These injunctions have blocked our policy.
All right. I'm moving on to the next one here. More nationwide in the entire 20th century combined, nearly 700 judges. I'm moving on from this. Parental rights victory. This is on this. This is. I'm very confused. I'm very confused. This can't be. This can't be. I'm not happy here. All right. I'm going to give you something else that I saw earlier today. The reason I was confused is because I saw something, I think, from Brian Allen. So where Trump, all right, let me do a quick search here. I'm checking up here. Don't think Trump press conference. See. This is painful. All right, I'm gonna do this on YouTube instead. It's a little bit faster. There we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Casey Wasserman, Chairman of LA 28, the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, and the 45th and 47th President of the United States.
You're telling me I should quit this and become an immigration judge? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Donald J. Trump.
I really wasn't planning on watching 32 minutes of this.
Thank you very much, everybody. It's a big day for a lot of reasons. And it's an honor to have you in this very nice venue across the street from the White House. And thank you all for being here as we take a major step to ensure the United States is fully prepared to welcome the world to Los Angeles for the 2028 Summer Olympic Games. Very exciting day of my life when we...
All right, this is what we're going to do because I'm not going through all 32 minutes. So we're going to use this transcription summary. And I'm going to scan through here to try and get to... I don't want to hear them talking about the Olympics. That's not of interest to me. Summer Olympics, amazing Summer Olympics.
The world. I want to recognize several members of the task force, including our great Vice President, J.D. Vance. J.D., thank you very much. Thank you. Our equally great Attorney General, Pam Bondi. Pam, thank you very much, Pam.
Okay. We're going to move on. So I saw him talking about Ghislaine. More sports, more sports. This is the best way to do this. Is this some other person talking? I really don't care about the Olympics. I don't care who's hosting.
Against any men that are posing as women. Excuse me. No, he called on me.
What did I miss?
Do you still plan to follow through on your threat to impose 100% tariffs on all countries that purchase Russian energy, including China?
Well, I never said a percentage, but we'll be doing quite a bit of that. We'll see what happens over the next fairly short period of time. But we'll see what happens. Yep. You know, they have a meeting tomorrow. We have a meeting with Russia tomorrow. We're going to see what happens. We'll make that determination at that time. Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for calling me. Thank you, Mr.
Sit down,
President.
call
On
me.
Ukraine, President Zelensky just signed a law allowing for citizens age 60 and above to serve in the military. We've seen dozens of videos of young men being hauled into vans and dragged to the front lines against their will. And we've even seen videos of a young man with Down syndrome serving on the front line. You, when you campaigned, you said you wanted to see the people stop dying. A lot of people admired that statement. Now the people dying are elderly, mentally handicapped, and conscripts. So even if a ceasefire doesn't work out, why should Americans
Vladimir Zelensky is genociding Ukrainians.
continue to fund a foreign military that's scraping the bottom of the barrel of its population like this?
Well, you have to understand very importantly, this is Biden's war. This is not my war. I'm here to get us out of it. It's a mess, and I'm here to get us out. I haven't heard that when you say about 60-year-old men and, et cetera. But this is Biden's war, and we're working very hard to get us out. I stopped 5 wars in the last 5 months, actually. And I'd like this to be the 6th, frankly. And that doesn't even include Iran with, obliterating their nuclear haul, because they would have had nuclear weapons within 2 months. But stopped a lot of wars. You just take a look at the ones just over the last 2 or 3 months. It's been amazing. This is the one I'm trying to stop. This is the one we're working hardest on. The other ones I stopped within a matter of days, almost every one of them, including India and Pakistan. And I could go over the whole list, but you know the list as well as I do. But this is the one we'd like to see. I haven't not heard that, but this is Biden's war. And it's a war that he got us into, or indirectly got us into. It should have never happened. It would have never happened had I been president. Yeah, next to you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would you support Israel reoccupying all of Gaza as has been suggested by some Israeli officials?
Well, I don't know what the suggestion is. I know that we are there now trying to get people fed. As you know, $60 million was given by the United States fairly recently to supply food and a lot of food, frankly, for the people of Gaza that are obviously not doing too well with the food. And I know Israel is going to help us with that in terms of distribution and also money. We also have the Arab states are going to help us with that in terms of the money and possibly distribution. So that's what I'm focused on. As far as the rest of it, I really can't say. That's going to be pretty much up to Israel. Yeah, please. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. On transgender athletes in the Olympics, back to the safety, especially of female combat boxers, will the Department of Justice considering pressing charges against any man that tries to masquerade as a woman coming into this country to beat up American athletes? And secondly, would
That's
your
an interesting
administration
question.
consider genetic testing so that these people can prove that they're actually women competing?
Well, I think there is going to be a very strong form of testing as far as charges. I'd have to ask the Attorney General about that. I don't know. But there will be a very, very strong form of testing. And if the test doesn't come out appropriately, they won't be in the Olympics. Yes, ma'am, please. Go ahead, please. White.
Thank you. Mr. President, do you believe that the U.S. committee would have made this decision on men and women's sports if you weren't president? And do you believe that this decision will stay in place once you are no longer president?
I think they probably would have, because it just seems to be an issue that most people feel should be. I can't really say. You could have asked Chairman Wasserman, but I would say that, there's a possibility. It could go either way if you really want to know the truth. I feel strongly about it. I ran a campaign, at least partially on that. That was one of the many issues that I talked about: open borders, the economy, taxes, all of the things. But that was certainly one of the issues. So I really can't, I really don't know. Could have gone either way. Please.
Have you decided on a replacement for the Fed governor?
For Fed governor, I'll be making that decision before the end of the week, and we'll either decide on one for permanence or the 4-month period, the term. There's a term of about a number of months. We have a couple of candidates. Everybody wants it. Okay, it's not a couple, but we've narrowed it to a couple of candidates, and we've also we're looking at the Fed chair, and that's down to 4 people right now. Very good. Well, I can tell you, because I've already said there's 2 Kevins and 2 other people. Okay, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. President. This has to do with the safety aspect of the Olympics. What can you do as a president to ensure that Southern California, the greater Los Angeles area, is safe from any fire danger, that the state clears away brush in state parks? The reason why this last fire happened in Pacific Palisades. What can you ensure for that?
Well, as you know, Brian, we have, I've been fighting with them for a long time about allowing the water to come down from the Pacific Northwest, essentially. And we actually opened up that water pretty strongly. We got a lot of opposition from the governor, and we opened it up anyway, and the water is coming down. That we want it opened further. They have a lot of water. They sent it out into the Pacific.
Can you even imagine Biden trying to answer these questions? Like, no way. It's like we forget just how completely incapacitated Biden was, what that was like for 4 years. Can you just even imagine him trying to answer these questions?
Pacific Ocean in order to protect the smelt. It's a little tiny fish that's not doing very well, especially when they don't have water. They really do badly, okay? But it's a fish, environmentally protected, even though it's in many other areas. I think they just use that as an excuse to smelt. You'll check that out. But I think it's just an excuse. They've got to allow full water, and they're working with Lee Zeldin is really helping us a lot. But they've got to allow a full complement of water to come down from the Pacific Northwest. There is so much water. If Gavin Newsom let the water come down, see the way I pronounced his name properly for a change. If this guy allowed the water to come down from the Pacific Northwest, they have so much water, they don't know what to do with it. All of those sprinklers would have gone on. All of those people with those beautiful houses with sprinklers in the ceilings and with the water, the fire pumps outside, all that water, they didn't have any water because they wouldn't let the water come down. There's so much water there. At first, when I got involved with this issue in my first term, I said to the congressman, they took me up because they wanted to show me the fields where they could farm 10 times more product. You'd see 100 acres, and you'd see 1 acre or 2 acres, beautiful green. It's very vibrant, but they don't give it the water that it's entitled to. And I said, "Oh, they have a drought?" I said, "No." They told me we don't have a drought. They don't. The Democrats don't allow the water to come down into the farms and into anywhere. By the time it gets down even into certain parts of California, it's fed out stupidly into the Pacific Ocean. If that water were allowed, so we broke into it and we allowed it to come down, and it come down in a higher level, and we want that, and we're demanding that of the governor. The other thing is, we'll do anything necessary to keep the Olympics safe, including using our National Guard or military. Okay. No, I will use the National Guard or military. This is going to be so safe, and if we have to, because obviously you have a mayor that is not very competent. She can't get the permits for the people. The people are still waiting for their permits. Lee Zeldin got them the federal permit, which is 10 times harder to get, and everybody can build on the federal basis, and that's the hard one. But the mayor, Bass, she refuses to or cannot get them permits. They're waiting. And I was there right after the fires, and I saw all these beautiful people standing by their homes, ready to get.
In his press conference by the fires, he's like, "This should happen in a couple of weeks, getting the permits and everything taken care of. It should happen this week." He was like, "Why would there be a delay in this?"
And get to work, and they're waiting for their permits, and they're still waiting for their state permits and city permits. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace.
Nice.
Red dress, yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
India says that the U.S. imports Russian uranium, chemicals, fertilizers, while criticizing their energy imports. Your response to that, sir?
I don't know anything about it. I'd have to check, but we'll get back to you on that. Yeah, please.
Mr. President,
Yeah, go ahead.
have you seen the Hamas released video of Israeli hostage Avitar David starving and being forced to dig his own grave in a Hamas tunnel?
I have, yeah. I have. I think it's horrible. I think it's horrible. And I hope a lot of people do get to see it, as bad as it is, because I think it's a horrible thing. Yeah, behind you, please.
Mr. President,
Yes.
can you speak to just how this drop off in foreign-born workers is going to benefit Americans, and will it force American companies to pay fairer wages to American workers?
Well, we want to take care of our American workers, and first and foremost, and that's what we're doing. We also want to help our farmers, because our farmers are producing like never before. We have to help them. And we're working out some very complicated strategies and language. But the main thing that I think I was elected to do is to get the illegals out of our country, who are especially in particular criminals. 11,888 murderers were allowed into our country with Biden's open border policy, with our border czar, who never spoke to the Border Patrol, never went to the border one time. That's Kamala. And think of it. We have murderers. We have people coming in from all countries all over the world, from prisons in the Congo and Africa, from prisons all over South America, all over rough parts of Europe, all over Asia. They're pouring into our country. Not anymore. So we just announced we had our third consecutive month where we were rated 0 people. And these are, frankly, very liberal people that make up these charts. So I don't know what's wrong with them. They seem to not be doing their job for the Democrats. But
remember, we were told that the only way they could close the border is if they had billions of dollars. Yeah, all you needed was the will. That stupid bill they wanted to pass, and all the lies they told.
I'm honored by the fact that they say it. We're very tough on the border, and people can come into our country, but they have to come in legally. So I think that we've done an amazing job, actually.
Yeah.
But, we have to get the criminals out of our country, murderers, drug dealers, gang
Let's get
members.
them all out, not just the
they emptied
criminals.
prisons into our country. It's one of the reasons, I think, even beyond the economy, it's one of the reasons I got elected. It's really maybe the number one. I was between the economy and that. But, as I said before, our nation is doing really well, but we have to get these really bad people. They should have never been allowed in our country. Open border policy is for fools. We're the only country in the world with an open borders policy, but we don't have that anymore. We had 0 now for 3 months in a row. Peter?
Very much, President Trump. Nice to see you got off the roof all right.
Yeah.
You said this morning that you probably won't be running for a third term. This weekend, Secretary of State Rubio said that he thought J.D. Vance would be a great nominee. You could clear the entire Republican field right now. Do you agree that the heir apparent to MAGA is J.D. Vance?
What do you, well, that's an interesting question to ask 3 years before the next election. And I think J.D. Vance is standing right there. I think he is the heir apparent, but I think it's premature to designate someone 3 years in advance. So as of right now, he seems the most obvious choice. But, you know, it's 3 years in advance. Be interesting to see how he dances this question.
I think most likely, in all fairness, he's the vice president. I think Marco is also somebody that maybe would get together with JD in some form. I also think we have incredible people, some of the people on the stage right here. So it's too early, obviously, to talk about it, but certainly he's doing a great job and he would be probably favored at this point.
If Texas redrawing their
Well, so see, he's gotten much shrewder at answering questions like a politician, being straightforward, but politically dancing effectively. Where he's like, yeah, look, he's doing phenomenal. He's the favorite, but it's early. Perfect
congressional
answer.
map
right
would get you 5 safe red seats. Means that California, New York, Illinois, and Maryland are all going to redraw their maps to add safe.
Well, they'll do it anyway.
Is it worth it?
Yeah, they'll do it anyway. Why? If we stop over there, they would have done it anyway. Look, a lot of these states, you know, I watched this morning as Democrats.
So yeah, that's what I said also. They're going to do whatever they're going to do anyway.
Are complaining, and they're complaining from states where they've done it, like in Illinois, like in Massachusetts. I watched this lunatic, Pocahontas. She's a total lunatic. I don't know what she's on. She's all jumping up and down like I've never seen anything like it, talking about supporting the communist mayor. And he's not a socialist. He's a communist, okay? This is not a socialist man. This is a communist. If you look at any of his policies and go back 6 months, you don't even have to go back further than that. So they want to put a communist in New York. Now, the good news is we have a lot of power over that because we're the ones with the money. We send the money. We don't send the money. It's up to the White House, a lot of power in the White House. But when I watched her jumping up and down, talking about that and supporting the communists, but if you look at what's going on with the redistricting or whatever you want to call it, the Democrats have done it long before we started. They've done it all over the place. They did it in New York. They did it in a lot of different states. But in Massachusetts, so somebody used this as an example today. I was interviewed this morning, and they said, you know, it's pretty unfair. Trump got 40%. I'm not proud of that, but I think I probably got more, but that's okay. I got 40% in Massachusetts, and yet they have 100% of the vote in terms of Congress. So there's no Republican, there's no anything. So we should have 40%. You know why? They redistricted. And they've done it all over the place. And they've done it in California, by the way. Before this, they've done it in California. So we'll see what happens. We have a wonderful governor in Texas. He feels strongly about it. It's going to be up to him. I think there's tremendous support for it. And, you know, we've watched the Democrats destroy our country in 4 years. They've destroyed between their open borders that we talked about, transgender for everybody, all of the horrible things that they've done, high taxes, horrible medical provision for people. We've watched them destroy our country for 4 years. And
he's in great form in this.
People don't want that. And people in Texas, as you saw, I got the highest vote in the history of Texas. I love Texas. Texas likes me, obviously. But I got the highest vote, and that was checked out on the show. Did you see that where they checked it out? They said he actually did get the highest vote in the history of Texas, which disappointed them. They were very disappointed to hear that. But Texas is a place that's done very well with a free enterprise kind of an attitude with the.
Remember how the left tries saying he's cognitively impaired? It's like none of them could answer questions this directly and effectively. None of them. Pretending that because of his age is cognitively impaired. Unbelievable idiots.
Exact opposite of what's happening in New York with a communist mayor. And they know what they're doing, and they're doing the right thing. Yeah.
Two questions for you. Mr. President, thank you. Texas Senator John Cornyn Texas Senator John Cornyn is asking for your help to force Democrats back to the state and hold them accountable. Do you want the federal government and the
This is not the role of the federal government. It's a state legislature issue. This is not the role of the federal government.
FBI to help locate and arrest these Texas Democrats who have left the state?
Well, I think they've abandoned the state. Nobody's seen anything like it, even though they've done it twice before. And in a certain way, it almost looks like they've abandoned the state. It looks very bad. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Should the FBI get involved? Should the FBI get involved?
Well, they may have to. They may have to. No, I know they want them back. Not only the attorney general, the governor wants them back. If you look, I mean, the governor of Texas is demanding they come back. So a lot of people are demanding they come back. You can't just sit it out. You have to go back. You have to fight it out. That's what elections are all about. Yeah, please.
Thank you so much, President Trump. Two questions for you. One, were you aware of and did you personally approve the prison transfer for Ghislaine Maxwell that your Justice Department?
I didn't know about it at all. No, I read about it just like you did.
And do you believe that she is?
It's not a very uncommon thing.
Do you believe that she's credible to be listening to? Your Deputy Attorney General sat down with her recently.
Well, let me tell you, he's a very talented man. His name is Todd Blanche. He's a very legitimate person, very high. I just a very highly thought of person, respected by everybody. And I didn't talk to him about it, but I will tell you that whatever he asked would be totally appropriate. And it's not an uncommon thing to do that. And I think he probably wants to make sure that, people that should not be involved or aren't involved are not hurt by something that would be very, very unfortunate, very unfair to a lot of people. But I will say this, Todd Blanche is one of the most highly respected people you'll ever meet. So I know this. I didn't discuss it with him, but anything he talked about with her or the fact that he did that, not unusual, number one, and most importantly is something that would be totally above board. Please. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. President. Mr. President.
That was the clip that I saw of him answering that question, which I don't understand how that shows anything bad about him, but the left is desperate, so they're going to do what they're going to do.
How much more would you like Doge to cut from the federal government?
Well, it's not so much Doge anymore. And by the way, I have to say that somebody from Doge was very badly hurt last night. You saw that. A young man who was beat up by a bunch of thugs in D.C. And either they're going to straighten their act out in the terms of government and in terms of protection, or we're going to have to federalize and run it the way it's supposed to be run. But it's not a question of Doge. We have great people, secretaries and all, working with Doge and cutting with I said with a scalpel as opposed with an axe. This cutting with a fine-tooth comb, and they're getting rid of people that aren't doing their job or bad people or bad things, bad policy, et cetera, et cetera. And I think we've been very successful in that. And there's more cutting to do. But there's also more we want smart people in government. Our country is doing great. I think we are doing probably, maybe in many ways better than we've ever done before. We're taking in trillions, not billions, trillions and trillions of dollars from other countries who for years took advantage of us. They took advantage of the United States like we were children. And that's not happening anymore. Now they're paying a lot of money, and they're paying hundreds of billions of dollars. Individual countries paying hundreds of billions of dollars. You're seeing what everybody else is seeing. And we have a lot of things we can do. One of the questions asked of me this morning is, are you going to make a dividend to the people? And the purpose of what I'm doing.
I covered that earlier tonight. I covered that story. It wasn't a long thing, but like roughly an hour in or so.
Is primarily to pay down debt, which will happen in very large quantity. But I think there's also a possibility that we're taking in so much money that we may very well make a dividend to the people of America. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So there you go. There you go. All right. That's one promise I delivered. The next one. I promised I was going to talk about the AOC scandal, which I don't know anything about this scandal other than it involves her boyfriend. And I think tickets to a Met Gala, which doesn't seem like that massive a scandal, but we're going to see what we got here. I was asked to cover it on Locals at goodlogic.locals.com. That's goodlogic.locals.com, the place that you would find me if you want to know when I'm going live and making appearances, and also where I add some my own individual exclusive content there. So that's goodlogic.locals.com. goodlogic.locals.com. I'm not sure if I pronounced it properly. Goodlogic.locals.com. Kind of like what you see in the white over here. If my hand will show up, which it's not, but do it there. So anyhow, so let's. I warned you all that I haven't researched this story yet. While we were watching Trump, I pulled up this clip, which hopefully will help enlighten all of us when we learn about the AOC scandal. I think this is going to be good. Well, if we hear anything, which that's an important element.
Andrea Ocasio-Cortez famously wore a dress that said "Tax the Rich" to the 2021 Met Gala. Now, the House Ethics Committee says she improperly accepted a free ticket to that event for her boyfriend, a ticket that cost $35,000. Here are the details.
Wow.
The House Ethics Committee released a report Friday afternoon that says Congresswoman Cortez proactively sought advice on receiving a free ticket to the 2021 Met Gala for herself. The committee said it was fine for her to attend without paying because it was a fundraiser and she received the ticket from a charitable sponsor. But she also accepted a free ticket for her then boyfriend, now fiance, Riley Roberts, and the committee said that was improper. At the time, members were only allowed to receive a second ticket to events like that for spouses and dependent children. They weren't even engaged at the time. The committee says AOC should pay $250 to the host of the gala to cover the costs of Roberts' meal and drinks. The committee also determined Cortez should pay $2,700 for renting the gown, shoes, purse, jewelry, and hairpiece she wore that night. She paid $990, but the committee said that's a discount and that she needs to pay the fair market value. Once she makes those payments, the committee will consider the matter closed. I'm Ray Bogan for Straight Arrow News. For more reporting, download the SAN app.
So she's getting hit with some fines? What was the total there? Like $40,000 in fines? All right. I remember when I saw the headlines of this, I was like, this is feeling like a bit of a nothing burger. This is feeling in an environment in an environment which she's swimming in, where so many people are stealing millions of dollars a day, where Maxine Waters became worth $90 million by serving as a congresswoman for the last several decades, and Nancy Pelosi and her shenanigans and insider trading and all these other things. I'm not saying that she deserves a pass at all, because let's face it, this is corrupt. They're all corrupt. They all suck. So am I supposed to be surprised that she wore a tax the rich stupid dress there while she was being a hypocrite? Of course not. She's a Democrat. Of course she's going to be hypocritical. I'm simply saying, this is to me not that, it's not that huge a deal. I don't think it's that huge a deal. I don't think it's that big a deal. So yeah, I understand why people want to hear me address it, but I can't really add very much other than, okay, she's a hypocrite, obviously. We all knew she was a hypocrite. Hey, look, a woman who wears tax the rich dress while charging, and preaching socialism all the time while charging like $90 for her stupid tax the rich sweatshirt, she's the ultimate capitalist. She's the most hypocritical person in politics since Hillary basically retired. So I'm nothing here is surprising. And yeah, and it's not that big a scandal compared, from a financial perspective, compared to like what all her cohorts are doing every day. So I feel like making a big stink about it would be, it just feels like I'm reaching for something to bash her on. I see people talking about it, but I'm like, okay, all right. Sadly, this is not a big story. It should be a big story. It should be because the hypocrisy and the scam, the corruption and everything. It should be, but given today's environment, unfortunately, our environment is bad enough that this is not a big story. in my estimation, you can feel differently. My take is I don't think it's that big a deal. So that's what I got for you. I'm now going to be sending you over to Jim Tells You, where he will tell you a great deal more. I thank you all for joining me. I will remind you that, I should check my poll. Let me check my poll. How did that go? Where's my poll? Wow. All right, 35% said, I asked whether fire judge linebacker was female, they, them, or Judge Tuck. Very close poll. 37% saying they, them, 35% saying, 34% saying, sorry, it's 36, 34, 28. So 36% saying they, them, 34% saying female, 28% saying Judge Tuck. So there you go. There you go. That's the results of our poll. And I will remind you, to those of you who thought they, them, lamb meat is not for you. It is meant for they, them, certainly. I don't know. I was more and more convinced female the more I listened, but I've been fooled before and I'll be fooled again. Fortunately, I'm in the dating world. I don't know what it's like for you guys. I don't know. Usually you can tell. Frankly, I doubt I'd ever be like, it's a sick world. And do not eat the bugs. Don't do it. Don't eat it. God willing, I'm going to see you all tomorrow. Till then, take care of yourselves. And as always, Goldspeed.